taxes by law, more than the zakah even. So that, but prayer is the criterion. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said the difference between belief, iman and kufr is a salah. Wallahu a'lam.
This question mentioned the Quranic verse, Inna Dina Indallahi Islam, and he asks that the deen that is acceptable to the Almighty is Islam, but apparently what it implies is that on the other hand you mentioned that the other religions are also going to be acceptable to the Almighty.
I mentioned other, what did you say?
What?
Yes,
The question is pretty brief and sketchy. I'm just trying to make out of it. What it says is that Inna Dina Indallahi Islam. This is the Quranic verse. This says deen in front of God is Islam. This is what it says. But I think what it means is that the only acceptable deen is Islam, and you mentioned that the other religions are also going to be acceptable.
Yes, we have to understand the words Inna Dina Indallahi Islam as meaning that every true religion is a mode of Islam in the sense of submission to God. The word Islam means submission to God, accepting the will of God. That God insists upon for every religion, and we must understand it in that way. The same applies to the verse, He it is who has sent his messenger with the religion of truth to make it prevail over all religion, despite the aversion of the idolaters. Well, that verse can be said to have two meanings. First of all, the obvious meaning is it refers to the difficulties had by the Prophet ﷺ to establish Islam in Mecca against the will of the idolaters, that is the people who worshipped idols as well, Manat, Uzza, Walat, the three goddesses of the Quraysh. But otherwise, if we take it in a wider sense, we must say, He it is who once again has sent his messenger with the religion of truth to make it prevail over all religion. Because when did God send a religion of untruth? Never. He has sent many religions. The Quran tells us about other religions. It fills us with knowledge of other religions, prophets, but when did God send a religion of untruth? Never.
You said Quran says, avoid big sins. You will be forgiven for small sins. Please clarify what exactly are the big sins. And therefore also what is small sins.
It's not possible to define, as I say, the asker of this question should use his intelligence and think, reflect, not ask somebody else. It's fairly obvious to anybody with what are the large sins and what are the small sins.
The next question is it necessary to pray in Arabic only, or can one pray in one's own language as well?
Let me remind you that this century has had many bad things about it, and when the millennium came, people were talking about the millennium, and I was so tired of hearing about the millennium, which is misused, because the millennium means, normally speaking, the 100 years that Sayyidina Isa will, the 1,000 years that he will reign for after his second coming on earth. Because, as you know, the Quran tells us that Sayyidina Isa and the Prophet told us that also, that he will come again. And he will kill the Dajjal, the Antichrist, who will claim to be him. And there are other things that we are promised. But, now repeat this question, what is it?
Is it necessary to pray in Arabic only, or can one pray in one's own language?
Well, now, I thought of suggesting, I was half joking, but at the end of this century, I thought of it would be good to have a book called Monsters of a Monstrous Century. And I thought it would begin with a chapter on Lenin in Russia, and then a chapter on Ataturk in Turkey, and then chapters on Hitler, Stalin. There would be a chapter on Pope Pius VI, who tried to destroy Christianity and half succeeded in doing it. And Mao, of course, in China. And but then I thought, in writing this, I remembered that Ataturk failed where Pope Pius VI succeeded, because in Islam it is sometimes said that every man is a priest, every Muslim is a priest. That is an exaggeration, but nonetheless, Ataturk was bent, he hated Islam, and he wanted to root out Islam from Turkey. And he managed, he got so far as to have the call to prayer made in Turkish. But he could not get the Turks to pray in Turkish. They knew they had to pray in Arabic. He had to admit failure in that point. Alhamdulillah, the Turks are a very religious people, and they knew they had to pray in Arabic. And Ataturk could do nothing. That's the answer to your question. You can have the call to prayer in a different language. But when you pray to God, you make your dua after the salah, you can speak in your own language. My Sheikh said to me once that God wants all that we are. He wants God as his representative, he wants man as his representative on earth, but he wants man as such and such a man, with all his faults, and he likes to be spoken to. Everybody has the right after the salah, which must be in Arabic, to pray in his own language, to speak to God. God likes to be spoken to. So that is perhaps an answer to this question. The salah must be in Arabic, but the dua can be in any language.
We reached the deadline. What? Are you in a mood to extend?
Is there another question?
Well, quite a few questions, but
we should have one or two more.
One or two more. I think it's a simple yes or no or straight answer question. The prayer hadith is weak and is not itself proved by Quran. Comment.
The what?
The hadith of prayer that you mentioned is weak and is not itself proved by Quran. He or she wants your comments.
Prayer is weak. What is that?
The hadith that you mentioned, quoted in your lecture of treasure. I am a hidden treasure. I was a hidden treasure and I wanted to unfold myself.
I wish to be known, yes. I am a hidden treasure and I wish to be known. Yeah. What is the answer? What is the question?
He's asking that it's a weak hadith.
Is what?
Weak hadith. Weak. Going by Dhaif hadith. Weak. Going by the criterion of the Muhaddithun, it's a weak hadith. It's not accepted by the doctors.
Oh, this question. Let me answer that question. Of course, there are many, the Muhaddithun will tell you that that a tradition is weak if there is no isnad. You know what an isnad is? It's a line tracing the hadith back from man to the Prophet himself, you see. But there is a hadith which is recognized by every muhaddith. All the authorities recognize this hadith. And it is Sayyidina Abu Hurairah speaking. I took 2 stores of knowledge from the Messenger of God. One of them I have given you. If I gave you the other, you would cut my throat. The meaning of that is that the Prophet said things which were not for everybody. And consequently, they have no isnad because they would not be told. Abu Hurairah was afraid of telling these things to the average person. There are certain things that cannot be told to everybody because they will not understand them. The Prophet knew that very well, alayhi salatu wasalam. So many true traditions have no isnad because those who were told those, they would only repeat them to certain people as secrets, not to be told. So that means they would have no isnad. So we know that there are many true traditions which have no isnad. I believe this tradition of the hidden treasure is, I am certain, I have an inward certainty, that is all I can say, that it is a true tradition. And we have the proof from Abu Hurairah's tradition, which all the muhaddith will recognize as true, that there are secrets which the Prophet told, alayhi salatu wasalam, which have no isnad. And I believe this is one of the greatest of the traditions, of the ahadith al-Qudsiyya, where God speaks on the tongue of the messenger. I was a hidden treasure and I love to be known. But I will add, Allahu A'lam. Nobody in this room is compelled to believe that. That's all I can say.
One last question. One question more? Or
one question more.
or two?
After this, just one more.
What about reading Quran in English? Can we read the Quran in English? You mentioned about prayers.
The answer, of course, is yes. You can read the Quran in English, but it doesn't count before God in the same way as reading it in Arabic. It is good to learn Arabic, of course, as much as possible. Not everybody is capable of that. Some people are gifted for language, but a recitation of the Quran in English, well, it's not a recitation, it's not worth making a recitation of the Quran in English, but you can read it for yourself. And those who don't know Arabic should certainly read the Quran in English and try to learn by heart as much of that as they can. They have to learn a certain amount in order to say the prayers. But it is so beautiful, the revelation. It is such a gift from God that everybody should try to learn as much of the Quran by heart as possible. That is all I can say. But I know that some people are gifted, and Allah Ta'ala knows much better than I do, that many people are not gifted for language. If they learn enough to say the prayers in Arabic, he will count that as a great virtue and will reward them for that. That is enough, I think.
I think everybody in this auditorium would join me. Thank you very much, Abu Bakr Sirajuddin. Jazakallah khair.
no more books. I mean,
This is the last one?
I will sign the book on this table.
Okay.
That's another. Don't bring more books. There's a limit to what I can do.
Thank you. अच्छा वो कागज नहीं पड़ा होगा उस पर तुम लेना चाहते हो नहीं आगे ले साइंस का इसमें तुम इंटर पढ़ो ज़्यादा नहीं हो जाएगी फिर वो काम
Nobody puts more books.
After mine. See, here comes another book.
It's your prerogative to decide. But these two came before this one.
Yes, well, these those
Let these two be the
no,
last
that's
one.
the last one.
Okay.
Those two.
She is making a special request for you.
No, that's
This is another book. She wants your signature.
This book.
Oh, it's already there. It's already there.
sign a piece. I will sign this. This is the last.
This is the last one. Done. Anyway.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Bring it. We'll get it done later. Okay.
Well, no, I think
Okay.
that's
We move on and can I put it together for you?
let me do that. I'll get that
This question was asked. Okay, just a second. Saudi person लगा है
For a direct answer?
What is this?
Would intercession by the Prophet be allowed on the day of judgment? This is contrary to the Saudi view.
What is the question?
Would intercession by the Prophet be allowed on the day of judgment? This is contrary to Saudi view. Intercession. Shafaat.
The Saudis say that
How am I concerned with the Saudi? I prefer to follow the tradition of Islam. And, I'm not interested in the errors of the Saudi. I'm not a Saudi.
Fine.
I'm not
Should we move on?
responsible.
Okay.
There are many people who make mistakes.
Can we move this way?
Yes, let's do it.
Can I pick it for you?
No, I'll take it.
How long will you be there in Pakistan this time? I visited your house at one point of time on French Street. Where
नहीं ले लिया